Happy Independence Day. We look at what universal health care actually looks like, and it is grim. What's in the news with stories on government theft, nanny state, unintended consequences, charitable giving, and government waste. We also have an Ancap App segment on Heleum, an app that accelerates your savings, and how to live a lava lifestyle on celebrating our independence. This episode is brought to you by Swarm City, a decentralized commerce meta platform that allows people to participate in commerce without interference from a third party.
Welcome to The Lava Flow, channeling the flow of information to the libertarian, anarcho-capitalist, voluntarist, and agorist community. Find us at thelavaflow.com. Here's your host, Roger Paxton.
Thank you for joining me this week. Coming to you from the only state in the country that has a libertarian caucus in the State House, this is the show that will bring you the people, places, and events that everyone in the Liberty Revolution needs to know. You can catch me on Twitter at TheLavaFlowPod. This is episode 65, What Universal Healthcare Looks Like. And it's Tuesday, July 4th, 2017, when there have already been more than 607 people killed by police this year. What's rustling my jimmies this week? You're about to find out. Let's do it to it. You know, there are very few things that piss me off more than children being harmed, as you likely heard on my last episode, where I talked about children being tortured in public schools. This week, though, a case that I've watched for a few weeks came to a heartbreaking end, and it really has me pissed off. Charlie Gard is a 10-month-old baby who suffers from a rare genetic disorder called mitochondrial DNA depletion syndrome. It's a horrendous condition that leads to organ malfunction, brain damage, and other symptoms. The hospital that's been treating this boy, Great Ormond Street Hospital for Children in London, made the determination that nothing more can be done for him, and he must be taken off of life support. He should, quote, die with dignity, the hospital said. The parents, Chris Gard and Connie Yates, disagreed. And this is the very crucial thing to understand. They are not insisting that Great Ormond Street Hospital be forced to keep Charlie on life support. Rather, they want to take him out of the hospital and to America to undergo a form of experimental therapy that a doctor here has already agreed to administer. Chris and Connie, on their own, raised over $1.6 million to fund this last-ditch effort to save their child's life. All they needed the British hospital to do was release their child into their care, which doesn't seem like a terribly burdensome request. It's their child, after all. They would then leave the country with their child and try their luck with treatment here in America. However slim the chance of success may have been, it was better than just sitting by and watching their baby die. And here's where things get truly insane and barbaric. The hospital refused to give Charlie back to his parents. The matter ended up in the courts, and finally, in the last few days, the European Court of Human Rights ruled that the parents should be barred from taking their son to the United States for treatment. According to the, quote, Human Rights Court, it is Charlie's human right that he expire, that he die in his hospital bed in London. The parents are not allowed to try and save his life at all. It's, quote, in his best interest to simply die, they ruled. These doctors in this court have literally said that this child should be euthanized by saying that he is not allowed to get treated by anyone else and that he must die. They've given this child nothing short of a death sentence. This is absolutely barbaric and disgusting. But when the state owns you from cradle to grave, this is the inevitable. This is no different than a slave master telling his slave that he could not seek medical care as the slave sees fit. If you don't believe the state owns you after this, then you are either ignorant or naive. But surely this can't happen in America, right? This can only happen in socialist European countries, you might say. You know, people used to say the exact same thing about things like Obamacare and so many other socialist policies that have slowly crept over to America from Europe. And universal healthcare is no different. Now, to be fair, the treatment the parents are seeking is experimental and would be a very long shot of having success. I admit that, as do the child's parents. But the alternative to this treatment is death, plain and simple. And I believe the parents have a right. No, they have a fucking duty to do everything possible to preserve the life of their child. Experimental procedures have been known to prolong and even save lives, even in long shots such as this one. But the hospital and the courts think it is more humane and in the baby's best interest to let him fucking die. Fuck these guys in the neck, every last one of them. As Rare.us said, quote, "The parents themselves have acknowledged that the treatment is a Hail Mary, but why would they not try it if the alternative is death for their child? And why in the hell does the frigid hospital staff get to make that decision rather than the mother and the father? It would be an unusual mother who didn't go to the most extreme measures to save her child. Yet that warm instinct, one of humanity's most imperishable, is being subverted by a clutch of distant experts who assert that they know better. Mindless appeals to authority are now so strong that they hold greater weight in law than the morality of protecting life. It's an abomination. Guard isn't a Terry Schiavo-style case where differing next of kin desires for the ailing are pitted against each other. It's also not an abortion case. Charlie is very much out of the womb. It's more akin to the case of Justina Pelletier, a Connecticut girl also with a mitochondrial disease who was removed unwillingly from her parents' custody and locked in a ward at Boston Children's Hospital for 15 months by all-knowing authorities who insisted that her problem was psychiatric. She didn't improve while there and says, quote, "She's doing a lot better now that she's being surgically treated outside of state-ordered captivity." And that was in the U.S. too. In both of these cases, government laid claim to the roles of caregiver, doctor, and jailer. In Charlie's case, they've also donned the garb of executioner. So a baby will die. The experts say it's for the best. This is clearly an abuse of power by these doctors and courts, and this is one of the main reasons why universal health care is immoral. But to me, this begs the question. Clearly, this hospital is now guilty of kidnapping, and it is still in the act of kidnapping until they either release Charlie or Charlie dies. This is a clear violation of the non-aggression principle right now. As a libertarian, what moral actions could Charlie's parents take to resolve this situation since the courts have tied their hands? Now, I know what I would do as a parent, and there's nothing that would stop me from doing it. But what would you do? What do you think should be their next course of action? I'd love to hear from you on this one, because this is a really, really tough case. You can find me or The Lava Flow on Twitter and Facebook, or you can shoot me an email at roger@thelavaflow.com and let me know your thoughts. Tell me what you would do in this case, or tell me what you think would be the right thing for them to do from a libertarian perspective. I really want to hear your thoughts. Have you subscribed to The Lava Flow on iTunes or any mobile device yet? Then what's wrong with you? Go to thelavaflow.com/subscribe so you don't miss a minute of the show. And while you're subscribing, make sure to leave me a 5-star rating and review the show to help others find our podcast. thelavaflow.com/subscribe.
What's in the news? The news you need to know from a libertarian perspective.
In government theft news, a new federal bill seeks to track your money and assets incessantly. Will it join any business with government ties to act as a de facto arm of DHS and would steal all of your assets, including Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, should you fail to report funds when traveling with over $10,000? Under the guise of combating money laundering, Senate Bill 1241, quote, Combating Money Laundering, Terrorist Financing, and Counterfeiting Act of 2017, ramps up regulation of digital currency and other autocratic financial controls in an attempt to ensure that none of your assets can escape one of the state's most nefarious, despised powers, civil asset forfeiture. And all of this is under the broad umbrella of fighting terrorism. Civil forfeiture grants the government robbery writ large. Your cash, property, and assets can be stolen completely without due process. Your guilt, frequently pertaining to drug crimes, doesn't matter for shit. Characterized as an effort to, quote, improve the prohibitions on money laundering and for other purposes, this bill severely curtails the right to travel freely without undue hindrance, as travelers with more than $10,000 in assets, including those held digitally like Bitcoin, must file a report with the U.S. government. According to this legislation, reports smallgold.com, the Secretary of Homeland Security and the Commissioner of U.S. Customs and Border Protection must, within 18 months of the legislation's passage, devise a, quote, border protection strategy to interdict and detect prepaid access devices, digital currencies, or other similar instruments at border crossings and other ports of entries for the United States, including an assessment of infrastructure needed to carry out the strategy. The obligation to declare amounts in any form over $10,000 exists, irrespective of whether customs officials have a way of detecting such holdings. Since digital currencies technically travel with the holder wherever the holder goes, one must have to declare one's entire crypto portfolio each time the holder enters the United States. What the actual fuck? I mean, this is scary as fuck, folks. So in essence, if you hold more than $10,000 in cryptocurrency, wherever you may be holding those, and if you don't fill out the declaration form when traveling, they can steal all of those assets legally if this bill passes. This is the essence of guilty until proven innocent, and is exactly why civil asset forfeiture is such a disgusting abuse of power and completely immoral. It is literally theft. I highly recommend that if you're traveling outside of the U.S., that you make sure your cryptocurrencies are well hidden to the point where authorities can't find them. Even if they're not on a local wallet on your person, they are still susceptible to this law. And I happen to know 2 U.S. citizens who are friends of mine who are currently traveling outside of the U.S., Vince and Ash, and I know both of them have quite a bit of cryptocurrency, I'm sure. If you guys listen to this, please make sure to take good care of this on your way back in. And this appears to even include hard assets such as silver or gold. So if you're carrying just a few ounces of gold and don't declare it, they can steal that too. And that's much easier to steal since it's physical. This is why cryptocurrency is so important. It's easier to hide, easier to secure, and easier to transfer overseas. If you have hard assets, leave those hidden at home or in a safe somewhere, and travel with well-hidden and secured cryptocurrencies. In asshats using the nanny state news, Parents Against Underage Smartphones is collecting signatures to get Initiative 29 on the Colorado 2018 ballot to stop the sale of smartphones for use by children younger than 13 years old. The proposal states, quote, Initiative 29 prohibits retailers from selling or prohibiting the sale of a smartphone to a person under the age of 13 or to any person who indicates that the smartphone will be wholly or partially owned by a person under the age of 13. Retailers must verbally inquire about the age of the intended primary owner of the smartphone prior to the sale, document the response, and file a monthly report to the Department of Revenue. What? Retailers who sell a smartphone for use by a preteen would get a warning for the first offense, but could be fined from $500 to $20,000 for subsequent violations. The founder of the group, Dr. Timothy Farnham, a board-certified anesthesiologist, said earlier this month that once children get a smartphone, they change. He said, quote, they go from being outgoing, energetic, interested in the world, and happy, to reclusive. They want to spend all their time in their room. They lose interest in outside activities. Eventually, kids are going to get phones and join the world, and I think we all know that, but little children, there's just no good that comes from that. Who in the fuck are you to tell me what to do with my children? How dare this asshat? I mean, this is unreal. I know there are people out there who want to use the guns of the government to tell you how to live your life, and this guy is just another one of those. But this one has to be one of the most nannyish examples I've ever seen in my life. What's next? A bill telling you when you must have your kid out of diapers or when you should stop feeding them baby food. This is a disgusting encroachment of individual liberties. And thanks to the referendum laws in Colorado, this could actually become law, even though it's a long shot. Let's hope that doesn't happen. In unintended consequences news, Seattle's first-in-the-nation $15 per hour minimum wage law is hurting the workers it aimed to help, a new study has found. Imagine that. The working poor are making more per hour, but they're taking home less pay at the end of the day. The University of Washington paper asserts the new wages boosted worker pay by 3%, but also resulted in a 9% reduction in hours and a $125 cut to their monthly paychecks. The law also cost the city over 5,000 jobs, the report said. And of course, this was all predicted by numerous economists who knew exactly what this increase would cause. But there's no using logic with liberals when their feels are so important. Jacob Vigdor, one of the team of researchers studying this issue for Seattle, said, quote, this is a two-edged sword, and if you raise the minimum wage the way Seattle did, you run the risk of actually taking money away from the people you're trying to help. Now, it doesn't take a genius or even an economist to figure this out. When you raise the cost of something, then demand of that something will go down. Labor is no exception to that rule. The price of low-skilled labor is too high in Seattle right now and other cities in the country, so the demand has dropped. Plain and simple. And the supply and demand curve hurts the people who need it the most, the unskilled and the poor. Thanks again, government. This episode of the Lava Flow podcast is brought to you by Swarm City. Swarm City is a decentralized commerce meta platform. What it does is it allows people to participate in commerce to communicate and transact without interference from a middle party. To give you an example, platforms like Amazon and Uber give global users a safe place to conduct business, but they're centrally organized. And as we all know, central organization is never the most efficient. So these platforms extract a lot of value from the transacting parties, sometimes greater than 25% of each transaction. Swarm City solves this issue by letting people organize, communicate, and transact in a decentralized way. Would you like more info about Swarm City? Stay updated via their Facebook page or join the community on Slack. You can find the link for both of these at the bottom of the website, swarm.city. In Without the Government news, charitable giving in the U.S. topped $390 billion in 2016, up nearly 3% from 2015. It makes you wonder how high this would have been without the government stealing large portions of our paychecks. Aggie Sweeney, the chair of Giving USA Foundation, said, quote, "Americans remained generous in 2016, despite it being a year punctuated by economic and political uncertainty. We saw growth in every major sector, indicating the resilience of philanthropy and diverse motivations of donors. Giving to all major categories increased. Religion, of course, remains the largest recipient of charitable dollars, increasing 3% last year to $123 billion. Education ranks second, taking in $59.8 billion, up 3.6%. Human services increased 4%, and giving to health rose 5.7%. Giving to arts and cultural organizations increased 6.4%, while giving to international affairs increased 4.6%. Giving to environmental and animal organizations increased 7%. Now look, I give money to charities, organizations, and causes that I believe in, and I'm sure you do as well. I would be able to give so much more if the government wasn't taking nearly 40% of my paycheck through various taxes and giving that money to causes and organizations that I don't believe in. Instead of sending my money to fund wars and drug prohibition, I would send it to the Institute for Justice, or the Innocence Project, or the 10th Amendment Center, or any of the myriad of legitimate charities working to restore and preserve individual liberties in this country. We have the right to spend the fruits of our labors as we see fit. Now we just need to remind government of that. In government waste news, the money they steal from you can't even be used efficiently. The Pentagon overspent between $26 and $28 million on useless camouflage for the Afghan National Army, a government watchdog study found. Conducted by the Special Investigator General for Afghanistan Reconstruction, the study not only found that between November 2008 and January 2017, the Defense Department purchased uniforms for the ANA without ensuring the suitability of the camouflage pattern for Afghan environments, but also overpaid for a proprietary pattern over more cost-effective options. According to the study, the pattern chosen for the Afghan National Army uniforms may actually even put soldiers at greater risk, making them stick out like a sore green thumb against a tan landscape. Though some lands in the northern provinces of Afghanistan are lush and fertile and green, forests cover only 2.1% of the country's land area. Most of the country is either arid or semi-arid desert, making the green forest pattern chosen for the uniforms potentially worse than useless. I mean, did anybody actually go to Afghanistan before buying these uniforms? I mean, come on. The Defense Department chose a, quote, camouflage pattern without determining the pattern's effectiveness in Afghanistan compared to other available patterns, the report said in its conclusion. Quote, as a result, neither DoD nor the Afghan government knows whether the ANA uniform is appropriate to the Afghan environment or whether it actually hinders their operations by providing a more clearly visible target to the enemy. Jesus. The pattern procured was a proprietary design created and owned by Hyperstealth Biotechnology Corporation, a Canadian firm established in 1999. The Defense Department personnel responsible for assisting the Afghans with uniform specifications found the hyperstealth company, quote, through internet searches. And the then Afghan Defense Minister Abdul Rahim Wardak, quote, liked what he saw, ultimately settling on the forest pattern. John Sopko, the Special Inspector General for SIGAR, was indignant about the DoD's practices. Sopko told USA Today, quote, my concern is, what if the Afghan Minister of Defense liked purple or liked pink? Are we going to buy pink uniforms for soldiers and not ask any questions? This decision cost the department tens of millions of dollars in additional tax money. But they don't give a shit. They can just raise taxes. Sopko also said, quote, this is just simply stupid on its face. We wasted $28 million of taxpayers' money in the name of fashion because the defense minister thought that the pattern was pretty. Look, this is typical of government waste. Wouldn't you rather have your own money and be able to make decisions about where it should go? I guarantee you that any decision you could make with $28 million would be a much better decision than this bullshit. Exercise your free market muscles by going to thelavaflow.com/support and giving a per episode donation of as little as $1 an episode, or use Bitcoin. Get exclusive content, rewards, and help the Lava Flow become fiscally neutral while providing you more content. thelavaflow.com/support.
Ancap Apps.
There's a new app coming soon that you want to be a part of. Now, I've been in the beta program for this app for a few months now, and it is genius. And the beta is going to be ending soon. I want you to be a part of this, and I want you to get in on the beta before it ends. The app is called Heleum, Heleum, and it's a way to accelerate your savings. It works very simply, but the back-end code is brilliant. Heleum is an automated app that grows your money by letting it float into rising currencies. First, you create and add money to an account on Uphold.com. Uphold is an online wallet that helps you store your money in many different currencies. Then you allow Heleum to access your account. Heleum will instruct Uphold to trade bits of your money into other currencies. Heleum later converts your money back into dollars, plus whatever gains it's earned for you. Now, this app is completely automated, and it grows your money for you without any interaction at all from you. It essentially trades between the 16 most traded international currencies and the top 3 cryptocurrencies when there are dips and rises. Heleum only makes money if you make money, by taking a portion of your gains for themselves. In the current beta program, they're guaranteeing 2% growth per month, and they keep everything above that 2% for development. Once the app goes live, you get to keep more of your money, and you can withdraw your money anytime you want. But does it really work? Look, I've been watching this closely for months. It's also been fully checked out by several people that I trust implicitly. It works, and it's for real. And your money does grow. Helium's average growth rate was over 2% per month from December 2015 to February 2017. Since March of this year, the algorithm was fine-tuned and it's generated over 5% in gains per month. That's 60% gains in a year. That's insane. If you get in now, you'll be able to be involved in the app testing and get even more gains. The app is going to come out in September of this year, but trust me, you want to get in quickly and you want to be a part of this beta. You can get started for as little as $50 or as much as you want. And best yet, the investment is practically crash-proof. Large crashes often temporarily speed up the process of the algorithm because they cause a lot of volatility in a short amount of time. Heleum is not gambling on long-term moves. It's gambling on that volatility. It makes gains on the natural price wiggles that occur between symbols every few hours. Now, the guys behind this are super transparent, and they're keeping their community involved in every step of this process. I support this product 100%, but I've been hesitant to share it with you guys until I could feel comfortable vouching for it. Well, now I feel comfortable. You can join this beta and begin growing your savings automatically by going to thelavaflow.com/savings. Check it out closely, look at their stats, and see how much gains they've had already. It's huge. You will be very impressed. Make sure to use the link thelavaflow.com/savings. This is an affiliate link for me, and I do get some credit, so please make sure to use that link. And here's a quick ad from Heleum.
Imagine if your savings had the power to grow all by itself without you having to do any busy work. Introducing Heleum, A savings accelerator powered by Uphold, an online wallet that lets you easily store your money as dozens of world currencies. Conversion rates between currencies are constantly moving up and down. Heleum watches these rates for you so it can convert your funds when the time is right. By floating into currencies when they're down and floating out when they're up, Heleum automatically collects small gains for you every day. Just add funds to Heleum from your bank or digital wallet, and you're done. Heleum will notify you whenever your account grows, so you can enjoy more of what matters in life. Go to helium.com to get started. Heleum. Let your money move you.
Talk the talk. Do you walk the walk?
On July 4th, 1776, 56 representatives from the British colonies in America signed the Declaration of Independence. With their signatures, the British colonies in America dissolved their relationship with England completely. The document they signed said the following: when, in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, and that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But as much as these words are beautiful and correct, how did the founders live up to these words? As Matt Zwolinski said on bleedingheartliberals.com, quote, and yet it is precisely because we have a special appreciation for the philosophical ideas on which the Declaration is based that libertarians must also feel a certain amount of frustration with the 4th of July. The Declaration, to us, represents a statement of hope and promise, but it's a promise we recognize that has gone largely unfulfilled. Our rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness have not been well secured by the institutions that our founders created. And we, like they, have suffered a long train of abuses and usurpations against our liberty, an expensive, destructive, and ineffective war on drugs, a surveillance state that operates without any hint of respect for privacy, due process, or the rule of law, and a government that continually privileges the interests of large corporations over the rights of ordinary citizens. It was frustrated, of course, right from the start. At the same time that Jefferson was declaring all men had been endowed by their Creator with inalienable rights, almost 20% of the American population was suffering the most egregious violation of those rights imaginable under the institution of slavery. Now, John Adams believed that Independence Day, quote, ought to be solemnized with pomp and parade, with shows, games, sports, guns, bells, bonfires, and illuminations from one end of the continent to the other from this time forward forevermore. John's hopeful prediction did not quite pan out. It's well known, for example, that he expected independence to be celebrated on the 2nd of July, since that was when American independence was officially proclaimed by the Second Continental Congress. In addition, John did not anticipate that some of the festivities that he recommended would, of course, later become illegal. Celebrate the 4th of July with a gun, and you might land in jail. If you want a bonfire or parade, you'll need a special government permit. And, depending on your state, the private use of fireworks, or as John called them, illuminations, might get you arrested. Ironically, consumer fireworks are banned in Massachusetts, John's beloved home state. So if he were alive today and wanted to follow his own advice, he would have to go elsewhere to celebrate freedom legally. New Hampshire this year made firecrackers legal, while some fireworks were already legal in the state. But we should still celebrate today, and every single Independence Day, for what it's supposed to be. A celebration of true liberty. Sadly, we celebrate it in a country that has no idea what true liberty means, but we should celebrate it all the same. Because independence, true independence and liberty, is worth celebrating. And that's what I celebrate today. My right of independence, my right to secede. Carried to its conclusion, this right to secede, to divide and devolve political power ever further, can extend not only to nations and regions, but to still smaller political units like countries and cities, culminating finally in the ability of each individual to live as a self-governing sovereign. As Murray Rothbard wrote, quote, "Once one concedes that a single world government is not necessary, then where does one logically stop at the permissibility of separate states? If Canada and the United States can be separate nations without being denounced as being in a state of impermissible anarchy, why may not the South secede from the United States? New York State from the Union, New York City from the state. Why may not Manhattan secede? Each neighborhood, each block, each house, each person. But of course, if each person may secede from government, we have virtually arrived at the purely free society, where defense is supplied along with all other services by the free market, and where the invasive state has ceased to exist." Now that's worth celebrating. I declare my independence, and I celebrate it. Today and every day. Will you join me?
Today, we celebrate our Independence Day.
Thank you for listening to the show this week. As always, I need to thank my favorite camping partner, in a cabin of course, Jessica, for her help with this show. For the show notes to this episode, where I put links and other information that's been on the show, go to thelavaflow.com/65. I've got 2 new iTunes reviews this week. Silly Civilian had this to say: "Political sanity." That's it. Thanks, Civilian. That is so short and sweet. I appreciate it. You really get me. Paulie3J said, "What the actual?" Roger lays it down with a silky smooth timbre. Like lava, he burns up the old landscape and lays a fresh foundation for liberty. Paulie, thanks. I love it. You know, guys, iTunes helps to steer people to this podcast based on ratings and reviews. So please go to thelavaflow.com/iTunes and leave me a rating and review. Thank you to everybody who's left me a rating and review so far. You guys rock. To all of you who haven't, can you guys help me out and go leave a review for me? Go to thelavaflow.com/iTunes to do that now. I also have a couple of new supporters this week as well. Christopher added a $2.50 per episode donation using Patreon. Thank you so much, Christopher. That is huge. I appreciate it. And Shay added a $10 per episode donation using Patreon. Wow. Wow. That's fucking huge, Shay. Thank you so much. So thanks to you guys and all of my other awesome supporters, I'm now at $212.50 per episode, or 85% of the way towards my next goal of $250. Also, Ryan sent me a one-time support using Ethereum of 0.1 Ether. Thanks so much, Ryan. And now, because of the huge Bitcoin fees, I am taking both Dash and Ether for support. You can support the show using these cryptocurrencies at thelavaflow.com/support. I still take Bitcoin as well, and if you use Coinbase to support me through Bitcoin, there are no fees at all. But I'd also love to get some of the alt currency love too. And if you, like Christopher, Shay, and Ryan, want more of the Lava Flow, exercise your free market muscles by going to thelavaflow.com/support and giving a per episode donation of as little as $1 an episode, using Federal Reserve notes through Patreon or Bitcoin through Coinbase. I want to be able to bring you more content soon, so make sure to add your donation today to help make that happen. Until next time, keep striking the root.
Thank you for listening to The Lava Flow at thelavaflow.com. Don't miss an episode. Subscribe now at thelavaflow.com/subscribe. This has been a Pax Libertas Productions podcast.